tiptoe through the window, by the window, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me. Oh, tiptoe.
Are you ready to separate which case file is true or fake?
In a world where the boundaries between reality and the uncanny blur, where the unexplainable often takes center stage, we find ourselves in the nexus of truth and imagination. Can you discern the fine lines separating the verifiable from the surreal? To decode the two case files that lie before us, one must unravel the tapestry of their own experiences and embrace the inexplicable that challenges our understanding. Welcome to a journey that transcends the ordinary, where the extraordinary beckons you to venture forth, in beyond the files. Hosted by Curator M.
Truth and illusion often blend together. For instance, take this picture with lines and different arrows. Can you tell which is longer and shorter? They're actually all the same lengths. Tonight, you will view two case files, and your challenge is to view them and decide which are inspired by actual events and which are a misdirection. Remember, it won't be easy because if you somehow made it this far to tonight's episode, just know I might misdirect you. In the grand tapestry of American heroism, the figure of an airplane pilot stands resolute, a beacon of inspiration since the days of the Wright brothers. Despite the relentless march of technology, there's an enduring fascination in the image of an individual armed with intellect, skill, and conquering the boundless skies. Daniel's father epitomized this spirit, a hero to his son, a guiding light, and a guardian against the unknown. Growing up under the influence of such a remarkable soul, Daniel inherited his father's zest for the daring exploits. Yet, no amount of shared passion could have prepared him for the inexplicable journey that's about to take flight.
High above the vast, dark expanse of the Atlantic, Captain Daniel gripped the controls of his plane, retracing the footsteps of his heroic father, who had once soared amidst the chaos of the Vietnam War. Now, beneath the canvas of the night sky, he commanded a sleek airliner, not just for livelihood, but for the taste of adventure that coursed through his veins. One fateful night, en route from the UK to New York City, a sudden and eerie silence enveloped the cockpit. Communication systems flickered into non-existence, and the radar screen blinked ominously. Flying blind, Daniel exchanged alarmed glances with his co-pilot, Sarah. Their plane, a metallic bird of prey, was now vulnerable, adrift in the darkness with nowhere safe to land. Suddenly, out of the obsidian void, a ghostly apparition materialized, an ancient Vietnam warplane, its silhouette hauntingly familiar. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Could this be a trick of the night? But no, the vintage aircraft flew steadily beside them, a spectral reminder of a war long past. It veered in front of their airliner, a silent command that neither Daniel nor Sarah dared to defy. Following the phantom warplane, they soared through the night sky for what felt like an eternity. Daniel studied its details, the rivets on its wings, the weathered paint. It was as if he was looking at an old photograph of his father's plane as a chill crept down his spine. The Vietnam warplane began to descend, gliding gracefully beneath the dense cloud cover. With no other options, Daniel and Sarah followed suit, their faith in the spectral guide unspoken but unyielding. As they pierced through the veil of clouds, the ghost plane vanished into thin air, leaving behind the glaring lights of an airport runway. With adrenaline-fueled precision, Daniel made an emergency landing. As the wheels kissed the tarmac, a deafening silence settled over the cockpit. The communication systems crackled back to life, and the radar screen blinked, as if awakening from a deep slumber. Breathing a sigh of relief, Daniel looked down at his trembling hands. In his palm, he found himself clutching a pair of familiar dog tags, worn and weathered, belonging to his father, a tangible connection to the surreal events of the night. In the hushed aftermath, Daniel and Sarah exchanged a knowing glance, deciding without words to keep their extraordinary encounter a secret. Yet, as they disembarked the plane, Daniel grip tightened around his father's dog tags. In the depths of his eyes glimmered a newfound understanding, a recognition that the thin line between the living and the departed was sometimes bridged by unexplainable forces, a reminder of their shared adventures in the endless sky.
How could a Vietnam War plane randomly show up? Was Daniel playing some kind of trick on his co-pilot to test her? If so, could someone made a replica and flown it around at night just to test it out? Or is the explanation much more mystical? Maybe Daniel's father's spirit was summoned to save his son from harm. Is this case file true? Or was this flight cancelled?
Here's a sneak peek for one of the case file stories in the next episode. Nightmare comes to life when an apartment resident hears a woman's voice through the vents above, in beyond the files.
Ever heard of tough love? Mention it to someone and they either use it as their motivation or simply lead them down a dark path. Meet Sarah, who moved out of her parents' place at the age of 18. Not by choice, but a mother's choice to teach her about life and to learn how to be a strong, independent woman. Tough love, but can the love of a mother reach out from the unexplainable?
In the quiet corners of the night, where dreams and reality often intertwine, Sarah found herself haunted by a recurring vision, a spectral whisper from her past that refused to fade. Abandoned at the tender age of 18 by her mother, Sarah was thrust into the unforgiving world to learn the harsh lessons of toughness and independence. Over the years, she weathered storms that almost left her homeless, working odd jobs while attempting to make ends meet. Despite the adversities, Sarah persevered. Enrolling in school became her beacon of hope, a lifeline to a better future. As the years passed, she found solace in her studies, yet the shadows of her mother's abandonment lingered, casting a long, dark pall over her life. One night, amidst the velvet embrace of sleep, a dream visited Sarah like a ghostly apparition. In the dream, her mother appeared, her eyes soft with regret. "Come back home, my child," her mother's voice echoed, laden with a mixture of sorrow and longing. Bewildered, Sarah woke, her heart echoing with the ghostly plea. As her lease neared its end, Sarah faced the looming specter of homelessness once more. Desperation clawed at her, threatening to consume her resolve. Just as she prepared herself to crash on her son's cramped apartment couch, the phone call came, an echo of heartbreak. Her mother, the woman who had once cast her aside, had passed away suddenly, leaving behind a void too vast to fathom. In the wake of this tragedy, Sarah returned to the house she had been banished from years ago. The walls whispered tales of her childhood, of laughter and love that had long since dissipated into the ether. Now Sarah found herself stepping back into the life she had been denied, a shelter over her head, food on the table, and a warm bed to rest in. Yet her return held a bittersweet edge. Her father, now left alone in the wake of his wife's passing, needed her. Sarah embraced her newfound role as a caregiver, finding a profound sense of purpose in nurturing the man who had stood by her side through the years of struggle. In the quiet moments between caring for her father and attending classes, Sarah often found herself staring at the empty spaces, wondering if her mother's spectral visit had been a premonition or simply a figment of her subconscious. Regardless, in the shelter of her childhood home, amidst the bittersweet memories and the echoes of her mother's presence, Sarah discovered a newfound strength. In the face of adversity, she had returned, not as a broken soul, but as a resilient woman, fortified by the trials of life and the love that had never truly abandoned her.
How can you explain the dream Sarah had of a mother? Is the love between a mother and a daughter so strong that they are connected in a spiritual level? Is the story true? Or am I making you count sheeps?
Stay tuned to find out which unknown case files is real or fake on Beyond the Files.
Are you ready to tell which is true or fake? Let's go back to our first story about our airline pilot Daniel, who mysteriously saw a Vietnam War plane, leading him to safety. True or fake?
Daniel exchanged alarmed glances with his co-pilot, Sarah. Their plane, a metallic bird of prey, was now vulnerable, adrift in the darkness with nowhere safe to land. Suddenly, out of the obsidian void, a ghostly apparition materialized. An ancient Vietnam War plane, its silhouette hauntingly familiar. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Could this be a trick of the night? But no, the vintage aircraft flew steadily beside them, a spectral reminder of a war long past.
Did this case file story come from my imagination? You're right, the story is completely fiction. And our last story about Sarah and the dream she had. True or fake?
One night, amidst the velvet embrace of sleep, a dream visited Sarah like a ghostly apparition. In the dream, her mother appeared, her eyes soft with regret. "Come back home, my child," her mother's voice echoed, laden with a mixture of sorrow and longing.
Did I fool you this time? No. This is inspired by a true story from interviews of Madison Maxwell. So, were you able to tell which stories were true or fake? Were you able to separate truth from illusion tonight? Or was your perspective the same? Join me next time as we explore more Beyond the Files. I'm your host, Curator M.
For more case file stories and episodes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. There's always more to explore, more to uncover, and more to challenge our understanding of reality. Join us next time as we venture deeper into Beyond the Files.